Hello, everybody. Welcome on in to the eighth episode of Sharing the Mic with JJ. Hard to believe that we've been doing this for 7 weeks. That's really awesome. My name is Jason Joseph, okay? And today's guest, okay? Today we are going to be sharing the mic with one of my favorites, man. He was my sports director at Rowan University. Got to call Blue Rocks games with him. Also worked with him for Blue Coats events as well. Did a lot of Rowan, basketball games with him. He's the man, right? This is his second season of Walla Walla Sweets baseball, which is really awesome. He also does a lot of stuff with Penn for football, Rider University, and did some stuff with TCNJ as well. I think I covered it all, but without further ado, Gary Erdelyi. What's
Hello.
going on, Gary?
What's popping? What's popping? What's going on? This is a
Not
good
too much,
introduction. I'm not
man.
gonna lie to you. I felt like I was a rock star for a moment there.
You are. You
No,
absolutely are.
no. I'm not that cool.
Oh man,
I try to be, but I'm not that cool.
dude, how you doing?
We're
So good to
doing.
see you.
We're doing. Like we were saying before, absolutely fantastic to see you. You said it to me, but you look fantastic. But
Thank
again,
you,
like
man.
always, you always do.
Thank you. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. I got this tie-dye shirt when I was in Nashville, seeing my sister. My mom was the one that actually urged me to get it because we went to a flea market and she was like, Jason, you really don't have any tie-dye shirts. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And she's like, this one looks really cool. And I'm like, looks all right. And then as soon as I put it on, I'm like, okay, I'm getting this.
I'm a big tie dye guy. I
I
love
love
tie dye.
tie-dye.
I got like two tie dye hoodies,
Oh, really?
a pink tie dye hoodie, a blue tie dye hoodie, so many tie dye shirts. I'm a big tie dye guy.
Did did Rowan Radio ever have tie-dye? Anything?
No, that's
Why?
actually a very funny story.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
We didn't urge this, right? Me, Katie, Josh, Brandon, we didn't urge this, but previous like executive staff members, they were
Yeah.
all like, "Let's get tie dye," and
Yes.
Derek Jones said no, uh, and they were all like, "Why? Tie dye is so cool, it's sick," and he was all like,
Yeah.
"We don't want Rowan Radio to look like this hippy dippy doodah place. We're professionals." And
Oh
I
my
understand where it
gosh.
comes from,
Yeah, I can understand that too.
but it's
I get it.
really funny. It's really
It
funny being all
is.
like, we're not hippies over here. And then you have like, at the time, I still had my I still have long hair, but like
Yeah,
longer hair, like
you did.
all frizzy and stuff. Like I looked like a
You
mess.
did.
And he was totally cool with me walking out how I did. But if I was wearing a tie dye Rowan Radio shirt, he'd be like, no,
Yeah.
no, no,
I could literally see his facial reactions. I could literally see him shaking his head, everything. Like I call it the Derek Jones face.
no. Yeah.
I definitely see that for sure. Oh man. Man, I mean, of course we're gonna get into the broadcasting shop and we're gonna talk about the whole journey and everything. And we're of course we'll talk about Rowan in a little bit. But as of this recording, okay, so today is Thursday, right? September 14th, the the day of Thursday night football for week 2 of the Eagles and the Vikings. And we'll get a little bit into that. But I do have to ask you about your New York Giants because Dallas pitched a shutout. It was in the Meadowlands. And I know if there's two people that I know from the radio station that were crushed, it was you and Mr. Wilson.
I
But
do
you have a different perspective. And
I
I
do
think
love
that that's really cool.
I do love Lloyd, and I would absolutely love to know what he's thinking about this because he is, and I love Lloyd to death. I say this,
I
and I
love him
love him
too.
to death.
He was on here.
He's just as much of a delusional Giants fan as anyone else. And granted, it doesn't look good. I'm an optimist. You know me, Jason. You know me,
Yes.
big optimist. Uh, it's week 1. And we didn't see enough to really base anything, which granted
Yeah,
is bad. That's not good. You want to see things, right?
for
You didn't
sure.
you didn't see enough of Daniel Jones in spots to actually be all like, all right, he deserves the money, he doesn't deserve the money. He didn't get a chance to prove that. I think Saquon Barkley, same thing. You didn't really get to see. He had one of the bigger missteps of the game where Jones just dropped it off. He got hit, and it goes down as an INT for Daniel Jones, but it really should go down as a fumble for Saquon Barkley. Stupid,
Yeah.
but I digress.
Ugh.
So you didn't see enough of those two to base anything. You didn't see enough of Darren Waller, even though Darren Waller on his couple of catches, he still looked pretty good. Like, he was running routes fine. He was all right. But you look at this offensive line and say, wow, that's the worst offensive line I've ever seen. And we've been seeing it for a decade plus now. The defense, they weren't on the field. And the couple times they were on the field against the top unit, because at the half, Dak was out of the game. Like, they didn't even care. The game was over.
Right.
By that time, the Giants' defense saw maybe 2 drives. And granted, they got rolled over. They got stomped on. They didn't look good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's, again, just goes down to how good Dallas really is. I think you look at this Dallas team and say, Cowboys, we hear it every year. This is their year. This is the Cowboys' year. This genuinely looks like it could be the Cowboys' year.
Man, I always have to ask people after we talk about, like, you know, these sort of conversations and as we start getting into it. Okay. Now, you have had some incredible moments where you've got to share the mic with so many people, including me, which is awesome. But I do have to ask you, so is there like a particular moment that you got to cover, that you got to share the mic with somebody? And what was that moment like? I know that you've had a lot, you know, doing like baseball, like in the World Series. Like, that was really cool that you and Kayla got to do that. You also got to do, you know, some broadcasting with Dylan and some other people. But, you know, what would you say was like a really cool moment, like a defining moment that you got to share the mic with somebody on?
I could run down a few. A couple, the like best game. The game was good. The moment was good. The situation was good. Definitely goes back to that. The 2 Rowan games I did in my senior year with Kayla. The one at Marietta goes into extra innings, and everyone was saying Rowan's not going to win. Marietta was historically one of the best baseball programs in Division III baseball, and Rowan beat them in Marietta. The Yeta Express goes down. That's pretty big. And then Rowan goes into the World Series. Sure, they get 2 and queued right up on out of there. But 2 interesting games. And the final game was just an exciting one to call and a big atmosphere. I think that one was cool. Some other pretty dope moments I got to be a part of. In the past year or so, Penn has been super nice to me. Penn has been awesome to me and given me a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances to do things that I wouldn't be able to do without them. I got to be on an NCAA tournament game for men's soccer, Penn Rutgers. That was a fun matchup. I'm sure Penn had it one-sided, but I had a lot of fun. I was with a legendary Quakers head coach in Rudy Fuller, who's still working in their athletic department. He's awesome. Love Rudy. And that was just a fun game to call, just being with him. The stuff I've done at Ryder, but all around, like, there's been a lot of cool moments. Even recently, a really fun one. Last week, I was doing Penn field hockey. I do a lot of Penn field hockey. A lot of fun. Super fun team. Love them. And the thing that I love about them, based on, like, last year, they had the toughest strength of schedule in the country. This year, they're right back up there. Not as difficult, but they're still right back up there. They're currently out to the Midwest. They're going to play Northwestern, who was ranked in the preseason polls as number 2. They started the year playing number 1, and they also played number 4 that weekend in Louisville. So Louisville, North Carolina, Northwestern, all on the schedule. St. Joe's is a top 15 program. Princeton, Harvard, so on and so forth. But last week they played Drexel. And Drexel's not a bad team. Drexel's not a top 25 opponent, but they're still a good team. Goes into overtime, and I'm with this former player, Sabrina Rhodes. It was her first game ever calling. She obviously knew the game super well because she played at Maryland and Delaware. It was the first game she ever called. So she came in like a little nervous, And I kind of just looked, I kind of just told her straight up. I was like, with all due respect, look at me, right? How could you be nervous around me? It's, you know what you're talking about. Like, you
Right.
just former national champion. You're just former
Yes.
national champion at Delaware.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is your domain. Just go, have fun. And
Exactly.
we had a super fun call, and it was just a great game. And that's the best way to. That's some when you talk about like sharing the mic and going back to what we did at school. Like the best part about it is when you're with someone who's just starting out and just getting interested in it, and
Yep.
you help them find that voice, right? And that's what's super cool. I'm not saying I did that for Sabrina because a natural. She immediately was like, "Yep, I know what I'm doing. It's field hockey. This is my domain. I know how to run this." And I was like, "Great, perfect. I don't have to
Right.
talk. Awesome." She just knew immediately what she was doing, which was awesome. Like I could just set up, and when it was time to go, it was time to go. She knew everything. It was just instant chemistry. She was awesome.
That is a really cool moment that you had to have like with Sabrina, and I think that it's so important that as broadcasters we don't always talk about this, but it's not. Derek always taught us in sports broadcasting that for radio, like the play-by-play announcers, like the number one because you're the eyes and the ears. Like for TV, you know it's about getting everybody else involved. It's the graphics operator, making sure that they do their job with the graphics. And then it's the color commentator, because they played the sport and you don't really have to do as much on the play by play because you can see what's going on. And I think that it's so nice that we have people that are doing this that do a good job at just setting up their color commentator because that's a skill in itself. And I think that that is what separates good broadcasters from great broadcasters.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The easiest way to put it is I if I'm working with someone for the first time, and every color commentator, every play-by-play person, they're super different.
Right.
Like some people they constantly want to talk. Some people they don't want to talk. And they just
Right.
want to come in when they need to and all work, right? At the
Of
end of
course.
the day, it's going to be fine. And it's whatever, it's not going to change much. But I usually tell people, like, if I'm working with someone for the first time, I'm like, you're the star of the show, dude. Like, you
Yeah.
have the name. Like, I don't. I'm just some dude. Like, nobody really cares about me. And then they'll always hit me with, no, no, you're great. You know you dog.
Right.
You're the one that people should listen to. You know what you're talking
Sure.
about. And
Right.
granted, I obviously know the sport, no matter what sport I'm doing, which I've done a ridiculous amount at this point. I know
Reps.
what I'm talking about, but if I'm doing water polo and I'm sitting next to someone who played water polo their entire life, yeah, I think it's smarter
Okay.
to listen to that guy, not me. Like I don't really like.
I'm
We're
with
we're
you.
doing Penn Drexel field hockey, and I'm sitting next to a national champion with the headset on, and I'm like,
Yeah. You're
why
right
are we
here.
listening? Like,
Go.
go, dude. You're like, you know what's happening, and I know what's
Exactly.
happening, but you know it better than I do. You're 3 steps ahead of the people on the field.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. No, for sure.
you be moving. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. So look, take me back to like young Gary Erdelyi. Okay. When was that like one moment where you just said, you know what, I want to do this?
I want. I'm a delusional individual. I'm a little delulu, as the kids say. Um, I'm a little delusional, and up until like 7th grade, I was like, oh, once I hit my growth spurt, I'm gonna be able to play in the NFL. Oh,
Yep.
everyone's gotta watch out. Everyone wants to play forever, and I learned like when I got to my freshman year, sophomore year, I was all like, so the NFL dream's kind of out. What
Yep.
else can I do? And I was like, hmm, people tell me that I talk a lot about sports. Maybe that could be something. And initially going in, I was interested in doing more sports talk. Like I wanted to write. I wanted to be a columnist
Right.
because I was all like, people listen to my opinion. That is sick, dude. And then I realized I don't want to just give my opinion all the time. I I'm not I'm not that interesting. people could disagree with that, but I'm like,
Yep.
I'm not like I really don't think anyone's opinion is that important where we have to hear money off of them. Unless you're
Right.
Stephen A is like the only person who Stephen A and Mike Francesa, those are like the two guys that like
Oh,
I
yes.
would pay money to like let them just talk, especially Mike
For sure.
Francesa. Love Mike
Yes.
Francesa.
Oh, dude.
But like it just was I wanted to talk and write about sports. And then I got to Rowan and I started doing stuff with the radio station. They were like, hey, want to call a game? First game I called. Joe. I was doing it with Joe Stauffenberg.
Shout out to Joe, man.
He was doing play-by-play. I was doing color. At the half, he like looks over to me. He's all like, you got to talk more, dude. And I was quiet. I like didn't say shit the first. Yep. I apologize. I'm not allowed to curse.
No. You're totally fine.
This is
going, man.
This is unfiltered G for the one time.
Of course it is.
I don't know if that's a good thing, Jason. Anyway,
that's not a bad thing.
Anyway, he was like, you need to talk more. And I barely said a word in the first half. Second half, I talk more, but I feel like I sound stupid. And to this day, it's like one of the only clips Rowan Athletics has posted of my voice.
Really?
Really is. And it's terrible. I can't even go back and find it. I think I reported the tweet, the Instagram post like 4 times because I wanted it gone. I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. This is awful.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
And then after that, I was all like, well, I need to get better. I need to keep doing it. And I kept doing it. I did a bunch of games with Mark Etchitelli. Another shout out to Mark.
Oh, yes.
Mark. And Mark kept urging me. He was like, you got to do play-by-play. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. I was like, okay. And he gives me one game at Montclair. It was Rowan Montclair State in Montclair. And it was a Rob DePersia buzzer beater 3 in my first game. I haven't gotten another buzzer beater call since, which at this point it's like 4 or 5 years ago at that point, which is crazy. It's something like that. Wild. Like it's wild. And that was the first game I ever called. If I go back and listen to it now, I'm like, wow, Gary, you sound atrocious. And
I do that sometimes.
And that's fair. It was the first game I ever called. And I fell in love at that point. Like I was like, okay, this is what I want to do forever.
Yes. Guys, you're tuning in to Sharing the Mic with JJ. This is our as I have to clear my throat for a second. This is our 8th episode. We're on with Gary Erdelyi, the fantastic Gary Erdelyi. So Gary, I want to talk a little bit more about the Rowan experience because I think that your story is so interesting to me because you were not a sports communication and media major. Like you did not switch into that major and you majored in journalism and radio, TV, film. So with all the courses that you had to take, like sometimes things just like weren't aligned and yet you were still sports director on top of that. So, like what was just the whole experience like of just being able to like do all those things like at the same time and just get as involved as possible and just stay busy?
Well, a big part of it was the sports cam major wasn't a thing when I first came in. My freshman year, it wasn't a thing. And I knew coming in, I was like, okay, I want to do sports broadcasting. And I was all like, okay, that's what I want to do, but I need to make it broad enough. So just in case.
Broad for broadcasting.
Yeah. Just in case I hate it. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I could still write. I could still go into TV. I could still do production. I could still do whatever with these degrees. Makes me very versatile. And that's what it came down to. Then my sophomore year, they added the sports cam major. That's bad on me for not being locked in enough to know that it was coming. No, my junior year, I think it became a thing. Sophomore and junior year does not matter. Something like that. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm almost done. Like I already have all this. And I was already doing stuff with the radio station and nothing really changed. I was still, everyone I was around was sports cam majors. So it just made me have more pockets of, in the long run, friends. Because you look at, Josh is a sports cam major. Josh Ticino is a sports cam major, but he was more RTF. That's where I met him. So I was like, all right, Josh is RTF. Brandon Searles is like marketing or something,
Yep,
advertising,
it was
PR,
marketing. Yep,
something like that. He was there. Katie was sports cam, but she was also
Mackenzie.
journalism. So me and Katie were in a
Right.
million different classes, in journalism classes.
Yep.
And then obviously Kayla with sports cam, met her just through the radio station because she came in and was like, all right, I'm running it. And I was like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay, Kayla, I'll
Yes.
follow your lead. Because she's just a
Yeah.
great take the wheel kind of individual, and everything she did. I never had like an assistant sports director, but she
Right.
essentially was that the whole time.
Yep.
Uh, so she was like, "All right, Gary's technically the one in charge. I'm gonna be with him," and we developed a great friendship from that. But it was just right place, right time. And then
Yeah.
obviously yourself, it was just, oh, okay, we're on radio. I didn't know anybody's major. I didn't know anybody was sports
Right.
cam until I showed up at like a more sports cam specific event and I see a
Right.
million different Rowan radio people. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was
This
like the
is
first
kind of
time,
cool.
it was like a pizza with the pros at the time. And it was everyone I knew. And then Neil Hartman and someone else. I don't remember who was the speaker at that time, but it was Neil and everyone. I was talking to everybody, and Neil was very much like confused on who I was because he never met me. I was never a sports cam person, and at that
Right.
point, he was all like, "Well, I got to talk to this guy. He's the one that's scheduling everybody."
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I uh I think it's funny because I feel like getting involved with the radio station was something that really just brought me out of my shell for sure. And I learned from you, and you probably know this, or even if you don't, I had a 1.8 GPA, and one of the reasons why I switched into the sports communication major was because I wanted to get my GPA up. It was at like a 2.3 or a 2.4, but then I also realized that I have to get more involved with the radio station. If I want to get my GPA up and if my classes are like, kind of coinciding with what I'm doing, I got to really get to know people. I want people to know who I am, and I don't want to go down that road of failure ever again. And that actually really pushed me just to get more involved with doing more things, like helping out Mark and Joe with the production side of stuff, when the Blue Rocks internship was just the producer, and then that led to a partnership. And then, like, even like after the partnership, I got involved with doing foul ball music. I was doing like not just producing with Nick and with Lloyd, but I was doing promos on the field. I was calling games, I was filling in for people. And I realized that if I get more involved, because I have all these incredible opportunities that a lot of people who aren't even in college, that are older, they don't have that access. So, you were just one of those people that really pushed me. And I just wanted to say thank you.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, that's what we're all here for, especially
Yes.
in that setting. I
Yep.
Again, it's sports, and
It is.
at the baseline level, it's sports are fun, but they're competition,
They
and
are.
competition drives people to do better. And I'm not necessarily a super competitive person, but something about this, even though playing sports my whole life, I was like, all right, I'm here to run around and have fun. Like, but
Right.
this has being in broadcasting has kind of lit that fire underneath me to want to be better than the next person. Like I always see people that are around my age group or people who are that I graduated with, people who we
Right.
went to school with. I see them
Yep.
and I see them do something. They get a big game,
Right.
or they're doing a sport I haven't done yet, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna do that. Like
That's right.
the people manifest stuff, and I think about it sometimes, writing something down, and it kind of just acts as like that. Okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do because they did it. And
Right.
granted, maybe that's a little jealousy end, but like we're all pushing each other.
It put, and that's what matters.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
you're pushing someone, and I'm happy that I pushed you because you definitely pushed me. Because remember going back to school, even though I was with the Blue Coats, I didn't get the on-air thing necessarily.
Yep.
Like I auditioned and I did terrible. It was awful. It was awful. And if my name didn't hold a little bit of weight, I would have got so many no's, and I probably would have been shoved under to the back of the line. But it was just because they knew I could do it, but I was bad in that spot.
Yes.
And granted, I was pissed. I was so upset right after that because I thought I was a shoo-in. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't as good as I thought I was. I was like, okay, I'm going to prove to you that I'm better than you think I am. And I did, to my knowledge. And that's what I'm still doing. Every single time, I don't necessarily have that judge that I did in that spot, but I'm that judge. And I'm like, okay,
Sure.
you listen to it back or you do whatever in the moment, and you're just like, oh, that was bad. I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to be better than myself every time. And I'm going to be better than everybody. And I hope that other people that are watching me and or around me, I hope they go, I'm better than that guy. I'm going to prove it. And then they go and do it. Yep. And then I'm all like, well, I'm better than you. I'm going to go prove it. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of that because I also feel like it also comes down to reps. And if I am like rooting for myself, you know, I got to tell everybody, hey, I'm out here too. Look at me out in left field because this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, so. That's something that when I see what you're doing, I mean, look at this. I have very much the lesser on the production scale to begin with. But I kind of with that, yeah, it's about making your own opportunities, but it's finding them as well. And that's another tough part. Like you go back, I was in the same spot you saw yourself in, everyone sees themselves in. Yep. Right after I graduated, I was doing the Blue Rocks. And it was, again, calling 1 game a week, 2 games a month sometimes. And
it felt like years. And it felt like years that you were calling, right?
Yeah, and that's super, super tough. And at that point, I'm looking for opportunities. I'm doing anything. I was ready to take a grad assistant role as a broadcast GA at UIW, Incarnate Word, a Division I school in San Antonio, Texas. I was ready to take it. I didn't have the money to take it, so I could not find a house, like a bed to sleep in. But in my head, I was all like, I'll do anything. I'll sleep in a car. I don't care. And granted, no, don't do that. Bad idea. Don't do that. But that's how desperate I was. And I kind of hung in. I continued to do the Blue Rocks. And once the school year started, and once that September came, I've reached out to a couple people, Cody Crichell at Princeton. He was nice enough to let me come along, do booth stats for football. There's just an experience of me being in the booth, but all of a sudden he was like, hey, we need someone to do volleyball. Can you do it? We will do football that day, and then I will get you on a golf cart across campus to Dillon Gymnasium. We need someone desperately. Can you please do it? And I was like, you didn't even have to tell me any of that. I was going to do it no matter what. He was like, all right, great. And then I did it. It went well to everyone's knowledge. And that was just one thing. And then other people started telling me, there's Daisy.
Yeah.
She's chilling. Then other people started needing things. She's adorable, but she knows it. She knows it. She's a whole lot. But then other people needed stuff, and I just kept reaching out, and that's ultimately what it came down to. And after that first year, it was difficult. I didn't necessarily make a ton of money, and I'm still not making a ton of money, right?
Right. Well, that's just like the nature of the business.
Yeah, I'm still not necessarily making a ton of money, but I have a pool now because I'm doing games every week or so. Like, honestly, it's fun when I do look at my calendar because I'm all like, ooh, there's a little bit more blank spots than I wanted on there. And that's just the fall, if we're being completely honest. That's just kind of how the fall sets up because you have a lot of it's just based on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. But I'm like, it's not a lot of Tuesday gigs this year, and it's just Like, that's how you want to be. You want to be active all the time. And that's what's super cool about you. I know that's something you want. It's that drive.
Yeah,
You want to keep doing it, which
for
is
sure.
awesome because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, no,
get
for
bored if
sure.
I'm in my room for more than 20 minutes.
I know. Well,
And so
sometimes
so
like I'm
does,
also like editing highlights and stuff, and I feel like, because like I'm not only studying like for the cast, but like I'm marketing, like I'm setting up my roadcaster, like production stuff, like stuff that we used to do at the station. And I even have like a little stream deck here.
yeah.
That's sort of like, I don't know if you ever seen the stream decks before,
Mhm.
but like I use them for stats, like I use them for like all different types of stuff, and it's really just been like an awesome thing. But sometimes you have to get out of the room and you just have to try to get exercise. And I think that this is a good way to kind of lean into just the whole like how you find structure type of a thing, because this is not a 9 to 5 job. It varies all the time because it's all about gigs, and it's all about just taking the right opportunity when it comes. And how do you find structure?
It's a great question. It's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yep.
I
You
don't.
don't.
I don't.
You don't.
I'm not a structured individual. I'm sure a lot of people would have a lot better answers for that. I
Yeah.
don't. I got a calendar and I'm all like, wow, look at me go, guys. I'm planning it. Like, I'm not a structured individual.
Right.
Um, I know I have a mental structure, I guess, that
Right.
it's just an instinct type of thing.
Right.
And I guess that's a good thing to have, but
It
like,
is.
most people should have like a way of setting up things. And as you do more, it I feel like it might become easier to do that because you start to get in routine. And that's what I'm kind of starting to do. It's more routine at this point. But I am not a structured individual. I suck at structure. I told you I got a calendar, and I was like, I'm that guy. I'm the big dog. Stop playing with me.
Right.
Someone that I do think, firstly, you should absolutely talk to on here, because
Gotcha.
A, we've already mentioned her name a ton, and B, she might be the most structured person I've ever met in my entire life. Is
I know what you're
Kayla,
gonna say. Yeah.
because A, she's a sports director at a television station right now,
Yeah.
at
That shit got like while we were still in school,
maybe
which
22.
is
She's
yeah.
like 22.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but she's like
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
She's so young, and she's not only doing Delmarva stuff, she's
Look at
also,
Jacob now.
what's up?
Jacob Sports.
Yeah, she's doing stuff with them. She's doing stuff with the Eagles. She's doing
Yep.
stuff freelance with schools in Maryland and Delaware. Like,
Yep.
she's as close to big time as you'll get, and
Oh yes.
I mean, to do that, you have to be structured. Like,
Absolutely.
you have to have your shit together, and she does.
Yep. And it's funny. It's funny that you bring her up too, because from day one, like when I met her at Pizza with the Pros, I could just tell that she
Yeah,
was absolutely driven.
yeah, she
Like,
always was that, right?
yep. Always.
I remember the
Always.
first game I called with her, and again, that's more like lighting the spark, lighting the fire from underneath you.
Yes.
Uh, she sh- I showed up, and this was when Joe was still sports director. It was softball. The first like softball game of the year. Joe was like, "Yeah, Gary, you do it," and it was cold. It's terrible. And at the time, Joe was like, "You don't have to wear like dress shirt and stuff. Like, you're outside, it's cold." And I'm wearing a Rowan University hoodie. I think I still had a polo underneath, but the hoodie, like khakis or whatever. And she shows up in like full professional like get up, but she knew it was cold, so she still had like the big jacket. She looked
Right.
like she was ready to call a game for ESPN at that moment, and I was all like, dude, I'm one upped here.
Yeah.
I can't ever do this again. And that picture's still
Right.
on Rowan Radio's Instagram. It's me with a hoodie, and Kayla's more done up, and I'm just like, so
Did you report that for them to
no,
take
because
that down too?
because I look good in it. So I mean, end of the day, like, I look good in it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No.
no. And at that point, I was all like, okay. look how she walks up. She walks up dressed for success, dressed for the job you want type of thing. And then she calls the game with me. She was doing color. I was doing play-by-play. And I was like, okay, this could be a problem. She's really freaking good.
Right.
She's going to take my reps away. Like she
Yeah.
immediately was like amazing and
Yes.
understood how things went, had that chemistry, like immediately knew how it had to go, what it was supposed to look like. And I'm sure she might not even remember that situation, but I was definitely like, oh yeah, yep, she's gonna be good. I think after that game, Joe asked me, he was all like, so what do you think of Kayla? I was like, yeah, she's pretty damn good, Joe. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you need someone to do play by play, I'm pretty sure she could do it. Right. He was like, really? After one game, I was like, yeah, Joe, yeah, she's got it. She'll be just fine.
Yeah. No, definitely. Her and Rebecca were like always like inseparable because they were always like at the Pizza with the Pros events. Like they always like they were just so involved with the sports communication and media major. I really and I mean this. Like I don't think that the major is where it is right now if it weren't for them. Listen, I do want to ask you about Walla Walla because we haven't really talked a whole bunch about it. Um, what's it been like? Just like moving out to Washington, right? And just being able to cover the team and just like once the season started, right? And even just like before that whole process of like starting the season, just what was it like just going through that whole process of getting to do Walla Walla baseball?
The first year I did it, it was very weird because I'm flipping coast. I'm going to a different state, 2,500 miles away from family, and to meet all these baseball players who play random spots across the country. And I don't necessarily give off baseball player vibes. I don't know how I will necessarily fit all year on the bus and stuff. Like I don't know if these dudes will like me. I don't know any stuff like that. And they're the only friends that I'm expected to have, right? So
Right.
It was definitely weird. I thought a lot about everything. And luckily enough, the dudes were super awesome. I talked to a bunch of them beforehand. They were super cool. And then obviously the coaches ended up being some of my closer friends because they were close to my age. That was kind of the biggest thing, like getting comfortable with all the people. And there were great people out there. I wouldn't still be sporting the W2 everywhere if they were bad people. So shouts out to my bosses, Cody Miller and Tommy Ott. And then the coaches from the past 2 years, Jared Molna, Tyler Charlo, Anthony Morello. This past year, Brandon Van Horn, Brandon Vial, and Peter Abinanti. Of course, love those guys and love Pete. That was my roommate for bulk of the year. But that was kind of the biggest challenge, just knowing how I'd get adjusted. And second year in, I was like, all right, I'm chilling. Like I knew what I was doing at that point. Getting to that point, getting that job, I saw a lead online and I was all like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll happily spend my summer somewhere else calling baseball. It's 60 some odd games in a really good West Coast league with a lot of great talent. And that team we had that first year, sure, we didn't make the playoffs, but they're all conference dudes all across the board. So many. We look back at that team. We had a pitcher just get drafted to the Rockies organization, Stu Flesland. A lot of guys still playing out grad years. A guy in Josh Williams, who I know when he's done playing college, he's going to go make an MLB team. Very happy because he's great. Like so many dudes on that team. And then last year, this past season, just awesome dudes, like really great individuals. Like even though the record necessarily wasn't what we wanted it to be, the guys that played there, they cared so much about Walla Walla, the community, as a lot of them were local. and they cared so much about that team and playing. And that's, at the end of the day, while the results were not nearly what we wanted them to be, those guys cared, and it showed.
So I always like to ask people at the very end, all right, because I always have thought that, passing words of wisdom on to other people, or just, giving advice, or just passing on like learning experiences and those types of things, because we do have people that come on here, as much as they like to tune into the Phillies game, as much as they like to tune into Eagles, Sixers, Flyers content. Some people literally just come on here just because they love learning about broadcasting. And, for those people that like want to get into sports journalism and sports media, what would you say is like a big lesson or a big experience that you got to learn from?
There's a lot, obviously. There's so many. A lot of it's just how you treat people. And I know I can be a hothead sometimes. I don't think I am that often, but I can be. So, if I've, ever lashed out or anything to anybody, like I still think about every mistake I've ever made. And you can't do that, but it's important to treat people with respect, treat people with kindness, and do all that, because they do matter at the end of the day. I mean,
Sure.
not only how other people treat you, but how you should be treating people. And I know I've definitely not always been the best at that. I've always tried to put others first, but sometimes, something happens that frustrates me or something. So treating people, good old Harry Styles, treat people with kindness. It's a great song by Harry.
That's a
Big
good
Harry
song.
Styles fan. But yeah, truly treating people with kindness is a big part of getting into any industry, especially with sports, because it is such a small circle, and people remember. People do not have short memories. People remember everything you do, and to be as nice as you can to people, it's important. Obviously, you do have to value yourself, but
For sure.
treating people how you would like to be treated is something should just be so obvious, right? But we kind of lose sight of that when trying to look at the bigger picture or whatever. We don't always think about how other people should be treated. And again, when breaking into this industry, when getting involved, you mentioned it earlier, the number one thing that will make you better, and will make you great, and will make you have a long career in this industry is caring and working.
Yes.
If you care about what you do, obviously you're going to put out good stuff. You're going to do a good job because you care so very hard that you're going to try your best every single time. And working, I come from a blue collar household. My dad's a welder.
Yes.
My dad works 40 plus hours a week every week since he was like 20.
Yes.
He instilled for me at a young age, you better work your ass off, dude.
Absolutely.
You better go out and you better do as much as you can, because it's not going to be easy. Head down, lunch pail, all that stuff. So going out and doing it, going out and working, and sometimes having to sacrifice for that, right? He sacrificed a lot for me to be able to have a good childhood, be able to go to school, which a lot of people didn't necessarily have. He sacrificed a ton for me to do that because he worked his ass off.
Guys, it's going to wrap things up here. Gary, thanks again so much. Once again, you're the man, and thank you for doing this.
I appreciate you so much, Jason. I really do.
Yep. Yeah, man. Me as well. Always mad love and mad respect, for sure. Guys, that's going to wrap things up here. My name is Jason Joseph. This is Play-by-Play with JJ. We'll catch you on next week for another episode of Sharing the Mic with JJ. Have a good weekend.